Welcome to the November 15th, 2017 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. And I especially want to welcome everyone in the room tonight for coming and participating in city government. Appreciate that you're all here. We'll start the meeting tonight by standing and doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Ms. Zambrano, we'll start with roll call.
Commissioner Gregory?
Here.
Commissioner Lemo?
Here.
Vice Chair Simpson?
Here.
Chair Reeder?
Here.
And Commissioner Engler is absent tonight.
Thank you. Before we get on with the first item on our agenda tonight, I would just like to make a few comments about this being potentially the last meeting of the year and my last meeting here as chair. So I just wanted to review slightly what we accomplished this year. We recommended to the City Council that they install more flashing yellow arrows at the protected left turn intersections, which they agreed to do. We had many hours spent discussing installing speed cushions on Green Meadow. Finally, we recommended to City Council that this be done. They agreed, and fortunately, months later, there were no unintended consequences. Our homework made it possible that one of those rare things where everyone was happy. And then finally, we are currently working on re-engineering an intersection at Avenida de los Robles and Big Sky, where some potentially serious traffic accidents occurred, and the redesign will prevent this in the future. So I want to thank also my fellow commissioners for being my mentor. I've never been a chairman of anything before in my life, but they taught me the ropes, and I'm just kind of getting the hang of it, and now it's over. So, but thank you. All right, so on to item 4. We're going to elect a new chair. Do I have a nomination, please?
I would like to nominate Commissioner and Vice Chair Angie Simpson.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. We just have a hand vote.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is an election of a vice chair. Do I? Oh, okay.
You're in the hot seat.
I'm fired.
Did you know that?
Yeah. And then do I get the...
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the whole thing.
Here you go. Now I can cruise.
Get the video before that.
Okay, well, thank you. I definitely have big shoes to fill, and I have to say how much I enjoyed working alongside Commissioner Reeder and appreciated his innovation and his discussions with every single board meeting. He really led a lot of unique projects throughout the city. Not many of you here probably know that, but he is the brainchild of the flashing yellow light that now saves us all a lot of aggravation around town. So I appreciate him every single day on my drive to work, and just want to say thank you for your service. And so with that, we'll take it to the next item on the agenda, which is the election of the new vice chair. And at this time, I would like to nominate Commissioner Gregory. All those, anyone with a second?
Do we need a second? I'll second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion carries.
I'm used to HOA meetings where I have to do all the work.
And I thank you, commissioners.
Congratulations, Commissioner Gregory. All right. So this is the time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for a specific agenda item shall be called and heard during that particular agenda item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole, and all documents for the Commission and the official record should be presented to the recording secretary prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under the state law, public comment matters may not be acted upon by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to by the city engineer for administrative follow-up. As comments can only be recorded while speaking into the microphone, please refrain from addressing the commissioners unless you're at the podium. If you're unable to come to the podium, or should you need to step away while speaking, a wireless microphone is available for your convenience. Pursuant to the Traffic Commission standards, public comment speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow card will be displayed when you have 1 minute remaining. Also, please silence all cell phones during the meeting. At this time, I would like to call up John Baresi. Right over there. Please state your name and city of residence.
I don't know if anyone from the city has come out to physically see the traffic problem that we have. Someone needs to come out early in the morning, 8 o'clock when school's on. Yes?
Hold on just 1 second. Could we hit the mic there at the podium?
Sorry. Would you please restart where you began, because we weren't able to capture that.
Start again?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Technical difficulties up here.
My name and address?
Sure.
Okay. John Barisi, 581 Lone Oak Drive. I live between Caneo School Road and Herbs. And we're having problem with ingress and egress from our street. Early in the morning, because we have 3 schools on the street, and in the evening between 4 and 6 o'clock. It's very dangerous for us to pull into the street or to get out of the street. It's almost impossible sometimes. It takes 4 to 5 minutes. And we're wondering what you're going to do about this. And they're building new homes on our street right now. There's 7 more homes, so it's going to be even more difficult to do. I'd kind of like to hear something from the traffic division as to what would be done.
So your public comment has been noted, and after we collect all the rest of the public comments, then the staff can respond.
Okay.
But
are you aware if anyone has ever come out to the street early in the morning or during the evening?
This is where we're going to have to table due to procedural standards.
Okay.
And so we've noted your comments, and at this time we'll sit down, and then at the end of public comments, then we'll address your concerns from the staff if they have any insight.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Excuse me, Chair. All of the speakers that we have tonight will be for item 8A. I apologize for that. So at this point, we can move forward through the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Renee Murillo.
Actually, this will be for item 8A.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry
after
about
the
that.
presentation, we'll begin calling speakers at that point.
Got it.
We still have a couple other.
Madam Chair, there are no additional speakers for public comment. They are all for item 8A. Would like
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you could maybe step back.
Sure.
Gentleman here, not or there, will get your name. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And now we will move along to the summary notes. And if there are any comments from the commissioners regarding the summary notes. So I heard in the background, just to clarify, public comments were open at the beginning of the meeting. However, there's no comments that are anything beyond what is on the agenda under item 8A. So we're going to move forward with the presentation from the staff, and then we will pick back up comments that are in reference to agenda item 8A. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So engineer report. Mr. Mashiko.
Yes, thank you, Chair Simpson. This is an action item on the 2018 citywide street resurfacing project. There are 10 streets proposed for striping changes that either upgrades the current striping to meet current engineering standards or best engineering practices, and potentially address concerns of all road users. That includes the vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Challenge here is that the perspectives of the road users are not all the same. Drivers view the road differently and have a different experience than the pedestrians and cyclists. They all share the same road, and trying to meet each of their individual needs can be difficult to achieve. This meeting serves as an opportunity for the community to share their thoughts on the restriping proposals with the Commission. The Commission will then consider the staff report, community input, and recommend to the City Council appropriate road striping modifications for up to 10 streets. Here's a map that shows the city, and we maintain approximately 380 miles of roadway. Next year, the city plans to resurface 50 of those miles, and the affected areas are shown in blue on this map. Of the road segments where resurfacing is planned, we have identified 10 candidate streets for restriping that appear to benefit road users. After resurfacing, the striping configuration is not changed on most streets. However, since street resurfacing projects come up every 10 to 15 years, we think it's a good idea to consider making any changes when the opportunity exists. Otherwise, if we change the striping a few months or a few years after the resurfacing occurs, there is a cost to grind off the paint, and we also have visually the unsightly scarring, which was visually unsightly. The efficient way to install any new striping is after it is resurfaced. There are a number of reasons to consider changing striping, with traffic safety of all road users being the primary objective. Automobiles are the majority of road users, but staff considers the needs of pedestrians and cyclists equally, as well as they all share the road. As mentioned earlier, this is a challenge to balance all of their needs as they are competing for the limited amount of road width. Resurfacing projects, it does open the door for us to implement current engineering standards and best engineering practices. Examples include changing marked crosswalks to what are considered higher visibility patterns. On streets that don't have bike lanes, we can add bike lanes that are identified on our city bike master plan. On roads that do have bike lanes, we can widen them, make them about a foot or two wider, or even add a buffer zone that separates the bike lane from auto traffic. We're also able to address speeding concerns. We are able to narrow the travel lane from 12 feet down to 11 feet to help encourage traffic to drive slower. And on streets that have collision histories with regarding access, we can add two-way left turn lanes to reduce collision rates. Now, the 10 candidate streets that we've identified are shown here on this slide. We've undertaken a fairly aggressive public outreach process to solicit as much public feedback as possible. For 2 streets in particular where we felt there's a large public interest, we mailed out over 2,600 mailers. We've used the city website, social media, and electronic changeable message signs to reach out to those that may be impacted by the proposals for Hillcrest Drive and Avenida de los Arboles. The best approach is to ask the public first to see if they support the proposals or not. Some of the feedback received suggested that some members of the public believe the restriping proposals are already planned. This is not the case. None of the 10 proposals are planned at this point. Public outreach component was intended to get as much feedback from the driving, walking, and cycling community so the Commission can read and hear the public's thoughts and concerns as they develop a recommendation to the City Council on the opportunity to restripe up to 10 streets. I'm going to start showing you some of the 10 streets that are proposed for restriping. This first slide shows Avenida de los Flores, and what we're proposing to do here is the segment between Lynn Road to the 23 freeway. We're going to look to widen the bike lane, give it an extra foot, and to do that we would reduce the travel lane width by 1 foot. At the intersection here at Plantas, we would upgrade the marked crosswalk to a higher visibility pattern to help get drivers yield more consistently to pedestrians who cross the street. Next segment is Herbs Road. We're looking at the segment of El Monte Drive to Avenida de los Arboles. And what we're looking to do is install bike lane and pavement legends on sections where those markings are substandard. And at the intersection here at Flores, shown on this map, we would upgrade all the marked crosswalks to what we call the Continental style, which exists at the west or the east leg of the intersection. The other 3 legs have what we call ladder style crosswalk. Next segment is Grande Vista Drive, which is just north of the 101 freeway in the industrial section of Thousand Oaks. Here we are looking to extend the existing center line that starts or ends at the Lowe's site, and what we do is extend it all the way up to the post office. Next segment is Olson Road. We're looking to add in new bike lanes and green bike lane markings at the 23 freeway interchanges north and southbound. This is a location that would require Caltrans to approve of this, so we've submitted some drawings to them to get their preliminary input. And so that's something that would require their approval. The next segment is at along Rancho Canal Boulevard. We identified that at this location shown in the photograph on the left side at Amgen Center Drive, we have a bike lane situation that's substandard. The bike lane is to the right or to the right of a right turn lane. That's a poor location to have it. We're looking to switch their positioning, move the bike lane to the left of the right turn lane. An example of that is shown on the right side, which was taken at the intersection of Jans and Moore Park. We would also add green bike lane markings to further indicate to drivers that there is a bike lane present. Next location is Eastbound Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Promenade Way and Lakeview Canyon Drive. We're looking to extend the eastbound left turn pocket by narrowing the through travel lanes there. We have enough width, so we'd like to increase that storage for that heavy left turn movement during the morning school period for Westlake High School. There are no changes proposed for the opposing westbound direction. Next location shown here is Townsgate Road. We have a very wide travel lane in each direction, and what we'd like to do is narrow the travel lanes down from 18 feet down to 12 feet in width, which is a standard travel lane, which would allow us to create a buffer zone between the bike lane and the travel lane, give the cyclists a little bit more separation from the moving traffic. Next segment is Ventura Park Road between Newberry Road and Hillcrest Drive. Shown here on this illustration is a sample where we would add bike lanes and green bike lane markings. This is very similar to the treatments that we're proposing for Olson Road at the 23 freeway. And this is another location that requires Caltrans approval, and some drawings were submitted to Caltrans for their review. The next location is Hillcrest Drive between Canale School Road and Herbs Road. The photo on the left side shows the existing condition where we have a centerline stripe down the middle of the road separating east and westbound traffic. What we're looking to do is create a two-way left turn lane, which is similar to the photo taken on the right side, which was a similar segment of Hillcrest just to the east of Canale School Road. And in order to squeeze in the two-way left turn lane, we would have to remove parking in front of segments of the road that currently allow for street parking. This is one of the segments where we had public outreach. We reached out to the affected property owners where parking would be removed. We also attended a local HOA meeting, and based on all the feedback we received, 10 residents support the change. One person was opposed. And then the last segment proposed for striping change is Avenida de los Arboles. What we're looking to do here is change the east. We're proposing reducing the east and westbound travel lanes from 3 down to 2, and reduce the travel lane widths down to 11 feet to help slow traffic. Last week we shared with the members of the community at a meeting at Lang Ranch Elementary School this concept drawing that shows the segment closer to Parkview Drive. And at the intersection of Parkview Drive, we would maintain the westbound lane capacity so that we could maintain areas for stacking to avoid backups and lane changing maneuvers as vehicles make their way to Herbs Road. This next photo was also shared at the community meeting with the interested stakeholders. It shows the segment closer to the other end of the project at Westlake Boulevard. It shows a 3-to-2 lane reduction and also the narrowing of the travel lanes down to 11 feet in width. Here we maintain the the eastbound travel lanes at the intersection of Westlake Boulevard due to the fact that we do have a heavy right turn movement from Arboles onto Westlake during the morning peak hour. At the community meeting last week, approximately 50 to 60 people attended. We fielded many questions and heard the concerns of the 3-to-2 lane reduction proposal. The feedback at that meeting, including emails that we received over the last couple weeks, social media. We have a summary of those who support, oppose, feel neutral, or have an idea maybe we should have a compromise design summarized here. The overwhelming majority opposed the 3-to-2 lane reduction. And I'll get into the compromise design that came up at that meeting to see whether or not maybe that might be an option here that should be considered. This slide here, I just want to summarize some of the comments that we received at that meeting last week at Lang Ranch Elementary School. Some of the comments from the public include fear of increased traffic congestion if you go from 3 down to 2, longer travel time, shortcutting on Parkview Drive, and there's the fact that there's an existing speeding problem. We provided the Commission with a large number of the emails that we received prior to the meeting so you could read all the public's comments. But getting back to the compromise design that came up at that the meeting last week, here's an illustration that shows how we might meet the needs of all the road users. In this illustration, what we would do is narrow all the travel lanes down to 11 feet in width, create a new buffer zone between the third travel lane and the bike lane, which meets the needs of the cyclists and the pedestrians on the sidewalk by creating the separation from automobile traffic that they're looking for. It maintains 3 travel lanes that the stakeholders felt should be kept. And also the narrowing of the travel lanes addresses the issue of speeding. We also had a meeting last month with the bicycle advisory team. At that meeting, we presented the proposals, and they unanimously supported the 10 proposals for the 10 street segments. So with that, the staff recommendation is in the staff report. The Traffic Commission recommendation on this matter will be presented to City Council next month for consideration. And that concludes this report. We'll be happy to entertain any questions of the Traffic Commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Machiko. Out of the gates, could we go back and just review the compromise solution?
Okay.
I just need to take a second to review. And can you walk through the adjustments again?
Okay, in this design, we would basically maintain the 3 travel lanes that exist today. We would narrow the travel lanes down to 11 feet in width to address the speeding concerns that we have for that street. And when we narrow the travel lanes down, we pick up width to create what we call a buffer zone, which is that cross-hatched area between the 3rd travel lane and the bike lane. So we create that separation between the pedestrians on the sidewalk and those in the bike lane.
Thank you for the clarification. Are there any other questions from the Commission?
Yeah, does this create a protected right turn lane along this? Do you have any graphics?
No, it wouldn't create a separate exclusive right turn lane. It would just create a wider right turn lane when drivers approach the intersection, but it would not create a separate right turn lane.
So motorists in the far right lane would still have to slow down to allow people in front of them to make a turn, because that seems to be a problem on that street.
That they would still need to slow down. However, between the width of that buffer, which is probably anywhere from 2 to 3 feet, and the width of the bike lane, which is 5 to 6 feet, you'd have a little more room there as they approach, say, a curb, as an example, to get over and out of the lane. So you are creating a little more space along that edge, but not enough that the cars behind wouldn't need to probably yield and slow down.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Reeder?
Thank you. I was just wanted some clarification on a crosswalk. You mentioned a ladder crosswalk and a continental crosswalk. Can you explain the differences and why combinations of those are used at different places?
Okay. Well, let me just turn back to that slide on herbs and flores. Okay, it's shown right now on this exhibit here. The eastern leg of that intersection has what we call that continental style marking. That there, it may be a little bit harder to see, but it does have a slightly wider bars, what we call those bars in between, compared to the ladder style. And that's sort of the common type of treatment that most agencies are adopting. So we want to sort of go to that accepted standard.
So the continental or the ladder design will be phased out?
Yes, we've slowly been phasing out that ladder style design over the years.
Thank you for explaining that. Appreciate it.
Any other questions of the staff? Okay. At this time, we can move on to public speakers. And please state your name and city of residence for the record. And after each speaker, we will ask if there's any questions coming from the commissioners. So at this time, we have Renee Maru.
Chair Simpson?
Yes.
Quick question. How many speakers do we have on this agenda item, and how long will they be given?
That is an excellent question. So we have 3 minutes for each public speaker. And we will be raising the yellow card when you have 1 minute remaining. Thank you. Please state your name and your residence, city of residence.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Renee Mario, and I have been a resident at 2234 East Hillcrest Drive for 25 years. Currently, I thought as of Sunday when I walked the street, I thought there were only 4 single-family residents on Hillcrest, but according to the staff report, there's 5, so I must have missed one when I was walking along. With individual driveways on Hillcrest Drive between Herbs and Caneo School Road. 2 of the 4 that I saw have horseshoe-shaped driveways so the resident can circle in and out of the driveway. One is large enough where the individual could actually turn around in their driveway. Mine is the 4th that I saw, and it's just a standard driveway. I don't have a horseshoe driveway, and I don't have the ability to turn a car around in my driveway. Hillcrest is a very busy street, and over the years the traffic has increased. Especially during peak hours, it's extremely difficult to back out of our driveway onto Hillcrest Drive. Our way to protect ourselves at this point is to pull up in the parking lane in front of our house and back up into our driveway so then we can enter Hillcrest facing forward. I also have an RV which is legally parked on my property, and when we go on a trip or have to take it into a shop, we back it out in 6 o'clock in the morning before the traffic is heavy, or in non-peak hours, park it in front of our house and then leave an hour or so later or take it to the shop. In addition, if we have some friends over, they park on the street on Hillcrest in front of our house. If the parking lane is eliminated on Hillcrest, we will be adversely impacted. In fact, it will make it very unsafe for us to get in and out of our driveway, have friends over, and get out our RV. I urge you to keep the on-street parking on the south side of Hillcrest, as 3 of the 4 houses on Hillcrest are on that south side of the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? No? Okay. Susan Malone. Please state your name and city of residence for the record.
Hello, my name is Susan Malone, and I live in Thousand Oaks. I live on Lone Oak Drive, which is between Caneo School Road and Herbs.
You can wait till we silence that noise.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
And our first speaker this evening mentioned the traffic, as did the second, which is really a problem at peak hours. But it's also a problem turning onto Lone Oak or getting out of Lone Oak. I was going east on Hillcrest, making a left turn onto my street in the rain last year, and I watched in the mirror behind me to be sure the car behind me was stopping, which you always have to do because they don't. And then the car behind him ran into him, into me. So you're always kind of taking your life in your hands when you're turning left. So a left turn lane would be I look at it as a safety feature. Also turning right onto our street, sometimes the cars come up right zooming behind you. So I hope that there's a good compromise to have a left turn lane and to still not lose any of the traffic lanes, because you just need probably more lanes than you have already. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission? Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to call Nancy Morse Ramos.
Hi, Nancy Morse Ramos, and I have a similar situation, very similar to story. In fact, it's almost exactly the same, so I won't be redundant. I have lived in Thousand Oaks for 20 years, currently live off of Hillcrest Drive, right down the street from this lady over here on Mackenzie Court. And we were one of the HOAs that actually had a guest speaker, Nodder, who's in the audience over here, come and speak to us because we have had several incidences where people who tried to turn onto our street, either residents, friends, other individuals that were trying to turn left, were either rear-ended or almost rear-ended. My son was actually hit from the back. Luckily, he has a Ford F-150. So the damage was just to his truck and not to his person. He was hit by a Prius. If he had been hit by anything bigger, he, may not be here today. So I strongly believe that this lane is necessary, and I believe that these reasons, and I'll just read them. Two-way turn lane reduces rear-end conflicts. Yes. Improves egress onto Hillcrest Drive from driveways and cross streets. Absolutely, I agree with that. Pedestrians crossing the street can take refuge in the center lane. That's very true. In fact, I myself, in crossing the street, have had incidences where I've just sat there waiting to just simply cross the street. And the collision rate would be anticipated to decrease. I completely agree with that. I know it's inconvenient, and I hope that a similar, sentiment, because I feel for the people who, like the gentleman who first spoke, that does need parking. But I think from the standpoint of safety, we absolutely, something has to change. And with the increase of traffic, it just seems like in the last 7 years even, it's been just increased, and we have 7 homes that are being built across the street. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. It's going to be like a freeway pretty soon if we don't do something. Thank you so much for your consideration, and that's all.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Next, I'd like to call John Colleran.
My name's John Colleran, resident of Thousand Oaks. I back onto Los Arboles Road, right at Kensington. What the traffic engineer said may have solved my problem. I think we're going to stay with 3 lanes. Is that correct? Is that for sure on Arboles?
So just to clarify, that was a proposed compromise. And
last week.
Right. So if you are in favor of that, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that compromise.
I like the idea of staying 3 lanes. Cutting traffic down to 2 lanes with the same amount of cars going through does not work for Kensington. You sent a letter out a week ago that said your proposal of the 2 lanes would improve left turns. That's not true. The key is gaps. In our rush hour, you have to have a gap between cars. We don't get it from 7:30 in the morning till 9:30. You rush to get out, hopefully. I quit trying to make a left that time or later in the day. I now go out, make a right turn, go down to Parkview, and do a U-turn because it's too dangerous to come out during 6 or 8 hours of the day. That's about 3 or 4 in the morning, 4 or 5 at night. So if you're staying with the 3 lanes, it'll work. The other thing I'd like to say, that I know they're planning on a light there. The light should come in before you do anything. We need a light there. My neighbor has been T-boned there. I back right onto that intersection in my bedroom. And my lot is a little bit higher than the house at the corner. It's roof. But I can look right down it. I've got to say, I'll try to be conservative, 3 or 4 times a month, I hear screeching tires. Every once in a while, a bang. It's a dangerous corner, particularly at those rush hour times. So the light is necessary. Is there any chance the light will go in before you do anything?
We can address that after with staff comments following public.
As long as we stay with 3 lanes, I'm happy.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from the commission? Okay, next I'd like to call Hendon Harris.
My name is Helene Harris, and I live in Thousand Oaks. And I'm here regarding the lane changes on Avenida de los Arboles. I've lived there for 25 years. I've enjoyed the 6 lanes that we have. I know that the bike lanes, you might want to make them a little larger, a little bit of a buffer. I have no problem as long as you keep the 3 lanes. Having 2 lanes would be very dangerous. It would be a lot of congestion. It would bring down the value of our homes to have all that congestion on Arbalest. I live like 4 houses up from Arbalest on Chaucer. And with the people that they get off the 23 freeway, they come down Arbalest, they go to Westlake Boulevard, it would be a disaster. It really would. And you know what? It's just my opinion. I'm not a biker. I have ridden bikes. But we have a lot of residential area for bikers to ride, a lot of residential areas for people to walk. Arbalest is a main street. And so if you decide that you don't want to bike on a main street, and I have no problem with the buffer, but there's a lot of residential areas to bike. That's what's nice about Thousand Oaks. And what's nice about Thousand Oaks is not having the congestion. And I would appreciate it. But I have no problem with the buffer, and I think that would be a great idea. And also, I've gone around and I've done a petition, and I've just started. I only did it for 20 minutes tonight because I do work, and I have 12 signatures of people who do not want to go from 3 lanes down to 2.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? I'd just like to comment that I know that does take a lot of time, so thank you for your engagement. Next, I'd like to call Hendon Harris.
Good evening. My name is Hendon Harris, and I live the same place where my wife, Helene, lives. I've been a proud resident of 2475 Chaucer Place. There, about 4 houses up from the street for the 25 years. And as I've traveled the United States and as I've gone to Europe and other places, I've bragged about how well Thousand Oaks has been planned, and it's just a wonderful place to live. So I'm very happy to live here. But I share concerns. I've never heard of a city reducing traffic lanes, going from 3 lanes. I mean, we've had 3 lanes there for the last 30 years. So changing those lanes from 3 down to 2 for the bikers and for the hikers, I mean, it's like if you're going to do 2, I mean, if you're going to reduce 1, why not, bring it down to 1 lane for the cars and really make it utopia. I'm being facetious, naturally. But I see a completely different priority. People say, you've got the car drivers and then you've got the bikers. Bikers are clearly a recreational use. And as my wife has said and others have said, there's plenty of places to ride bikes. But one of the things that I think it's important for you commissioners to understand, you live in Thousand Oaks, obviously, is that Westlake Boulevard and Avenida de los Arboles is a emergency corridor. Or if there's an accident on the freeway, and this has happened several times a year, residents and people that travel that know about that route. And so we get an enormous amount of traffic coming down Westlake Boulevard and then over down Arbalest over to get on the 23 freeway to go to Simi Valley and on down that particular way. So we get a lot more traffic than a lot of people realize. But I would certainly support the modified 3 lanes if that's the way we have to go. I would prefer to keep it the way it is. But if we do need to accommodate the walkers and the hikers, I don't understand. I mean, there's wonderful places to hike without hiking on Avenida, on Avenida de los Arboles, which is there's no houses there facing onto that street. It's a major corridor, and any changes there as far as speed reduction, it's. I mean, what are we talking about? It's a 3/4 of a mile. And it's 50 miles an hour. If you want to change the speed limit, change the speed limit. But don't stack the cars up in order to change the speed limit. But having said that, I would support the modified lane changes and keep the 3 lanes as opposed to taking 1 completely out of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay, next is Paul. And I'm apologizing now. Kessler. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Kessler. Good evening. And I live in the Meadowood tract of Thousand Oaks, where I have lived for the last, I forget, but it's been many years. And I have to agree with many of my neighbors here this evening. I think this is a solution in search of a problem. The rule, this is, I'm very much opposed to this. I think that this is the first I've seen of that compromise. I think if this had to be done, and I don't really see a reason why it has to be done at all, but if it had to be done, I think that's something I think we could all live with. But as testimony to what any change could do to Avenida de los Orioles, all one needs to do is go to Westlake Boulevard at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and try and make a left turn onto de los Orioles from Westlake. This evening when I tried to do that, it took me, and I timed it because I knew I was coming here this evening, it took me almost 15 minutes. And that's because what was done about, I don't know how many years ago, but what was done maybe, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, when you took 3 lanes to making the left turn down to 2. And commissioners, if you've ever had to try to do that, have you ever tried to do that? Okay, well, try and do it again because it's gotten worse, and you will be there for at least 15, 20 minutes trying to make that left turn. And that's what you will do if you take the 3 lanes and turn them down to 2. In terms of speeding, freeway posted signs are, 65? How many people go 65 down the freeway? You can turn that speed limit into whatever you want, but people will speed. So I think that's a straw man. So again, bottom line is leave it alone. It ain't broke. Why break it? If the bicycles want to, go up and down De Los Arboles, they've been doing that for how many years? How many acts? I think I asked one of the guys at the school meeting, how many accidents have occurred with bicyclists, and they said none. How many pedestrians have been maimed and killed and murdered? And none. Leave it alone. Nothing's broke. Save the money. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Okay. Next, I'd like to call Simon Walshaw.
Good evening. My name is Simon Walshaw. I live at 555 Lone Oak Drive in Thousand Oaks. I've lived here for about 15 years. As a father of 3 teenagers, I'm very much in favor of the proposal on Hillcrest. We've lived, as I said, in Lone Oak for many years, and since 2003, I've experienced many times being nearly rear-ended there, such as my neighbors here have said. So I now advise my teenagers to drive up to Conejo School Road, turn into the estates, use the turning circle, and come back down Hillcrest in order to avoid sitting there as a sitting duck, waiting to be hit rear-ended by someone coming from Urbs. Also, as they mentioned, there's 7 new homes being completed at the foot of Lone Oak, and I think the situation will only get worse there, with more people waiting to turn in. And I think also the proposal not permitting the parking on that street will allow people to pull in and out of Lone Oak with clear visibility. And having the centre lane will also make it safer pulling out into Hillcrest from Lone Oak. There is actually ample parking available on all the side streets between Urbs and Conejo School Road, including Lone Oak Drive. So, removing the parking from Hillcrest may be inconvenient, but I think the safety aspect of it overrides, slight inconvenience of having to walk to the parking area. Also, as a family of cyclists, we appreciate the dangers of cycling on Hillcrest and would welcome a dedicated cycle lane and a centre turn lane and single lanes each way, which will make cycling safer. We've seen the benefits of the 2-way left turn lanes further west on Hillcrest, and the traffic moves at a steady, comfortable pace there. Less stopping and starting, less switching of lanes to avoid people stopping in their lane to turn left. So it actually, in my opinion, the traffic moves quicker. And, so we are very much in favour of the proposal, and we look forward to it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call Denise Dickey. And Denise, you'll be followed by J.C. Simmons.
Okay. We live in the Scenic Park development. We've lived in that area of Thousand Oaks now for 17 years. I'm very much opposed to reducing the lanes from 3 to 2. The rationales that are being put forth for this don't make sense. If the problem is people speeding on our bolus, you enforce traffic laws. People, yes, they're going to speed. But if you have an officer pulling people over, it slows people down. There is not a rush. Anything that makes sense by going to 2 lanes, because what you're going to do is take all of that traffic that exists during the commuting hours and channel it into 2 lanes. That creates a more dangerous situation. It's more dangerous for emergency vehicles because the only place they'll be able to travel will be the buffer zone. And then in order to get to where they have to go, they're going to have to somehow maneuver to get through that 2 lanes of traffic. That does not make sense. As the other gentleman said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There are not very many, from what I have seen, bicycles that use that area of the roadway. If your concern is bicyclists, great, make a better bicycle lane. So you make it safer for the bicyclists, and you don't make it not safe for the vehicles that are traveling on that roadway. There was in the materials that we got, there was discussion about left turning. Why not include left turn signals on all those traffic lights? That will solve a problem with left turning vehicles. The traffic code exists for a reason. I'm an attorney. We enforce laws. They exist for a reason. I also grew up in the San Fernando Valley. So I want to know, what kind of city do you want to create? Do you want Thousand Oaks to be like the San Fernando Valley, where there's so many cars in such a small space that no one can get anywhere? Or do you want to have a city that is pleasant to live in, where people can travel, they can work and live and enjoy their lives here? And that really is what this comes down to. You want to talk about bicycles? Great. Shared access. That's the fundamental concept the vehicle code is based on. All the laws relating to bicycles are built on that concept of shared access. So, okay, great. Pedestrians. Again, pedestrians need to cross in the crosswalks. They're there. Use them. One of the arguments for this was that they would have fewer lanes to cross. Big deal. It's the same space. You're going to be walking across the same street. It's not going to get any smaller because you make 2 lanes instead of 3 lanes. So it's not going to take them any less time to cross the street. So that's not going to affect pedestrians at all if we change from 3 to 2 lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We're out of time, but appreciate your comments. Next, J.C. Simmons, followed by Richard Onsgaard.
Good evening, Commission and Thousand Oaks. J.C. Simmons, avid cyclist. I hear a lot of people here talking about their cars with little experience at interacting with cars and traffic from the perspective of a bicycle. It's a different argument. You're on a 15-pound vehicle moving at 15, 20 miles an hour, not a 3,000-pound vehicle moving at 35, 40 miles an hour. I agree with the restriping plan almost completely. There's a few things with Caltrans overpass that I have conflicts with, but as we proved on the piece of Hillcrest that went from 4 lanes to 3 lanes with the center turn lane, it flows better, it's safer, and the cyclists have room to go out and enjoy this beautiful city as well. You know, you say, ride around the neighborhood. Why don't ride around the neighborhood? I've ridden around this town for 35,000 miles, thank you. And you need to ride distance if you're going to ride to work. You need to ride distance if you're going to ride to the library, if you're going to ride to the school. No. Bicycles are transportation as well. They are traffic. You know, the city is proposing great plans on making it safer for everyone. Look at what they did to Arbalest. From the 23 going west to Moore Park. It flows much smoother. I heard all this same kind of talk when they were talking about going from 4 lanes to a left turn center lane. This isn't going to work. All those people got very quiet once it was done because it worked. The engineers have gone to school. They've done their studies. They know what works. I'm in favor of all the restriping plans here. Thank you very much.
Hold on, Mr. Simmons. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I wondered if you had a chance, if you were here when we did get to see a glimpse of the potential compromise plan.
I did not see the compromise.
Could we? I'd like for Mr. Simmons to see that really
quickly. And I
quickly,
left that meeting early because
I definitely value your input because I know how involved you are with the BAT team, and just wanted. I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but I wanted you to see what the staff came up with after meeting with the local homeowners and residents and socializing this concept to include reducing the width of the 3 lanes, but not taking it all the way down to 2, but still enhancing the bike lanes with the buffer. So I wondered if the compromise, from your perspective, would meet the needs of both types of transportation.
On Arbalest, that's a good compromise. I would agree with that. The one thing I would disagree, and I kind of disagree with the bicycle coordinator on this, is putting the buffer between the traffic and the bike lane as opposed to putting it in the trash lane where the buffer, when you put the bike lane next to the curb, you're riding in glass, paper, nails, so on. A lot of places put the buffer next to the curb, as they did on Pedersen, and it gets you out of the trash. It also makes you more visible to the traffic coming up behind you because now you're out on the street as opposed to over in the gutter. You see lots of signs that say share the road. Most drivers think that means bicyclists get off the road, I'm driving. It doesn't mean that. Bicycles are traffic.
Well, thank you, Mr.
They have the same
Simmons.
access to the roads as everybody else.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
I really appreciate your insight.
Sure.
Hold on, are there any questions?
Question.
Okay, Commissioner Lameau.
I don't know if you have this information, Mr. Simpson, but I know that you've been around, politely, you've been around a long time. I heard a statement tonight, and my research leads me to believe it's not accurate. Bikes are clearly only for recreational use, yet every meeting I go to in the city, they trying to entice people to use their bike more often if they happen to live, work, or shop in this area. Do you have any stats on how many or what you think percentage-wise of your fellow bike riders are actually to and from work, to and from shopping, and not out, only on a recreational basis?
Well, I don't have those hard statistics. I do know that people ride to work. I know that people ride to the store because I ride to the store. In fact, I have one of my 3 bicycles is dedicated for running to the store. Why drive and have to park a car when I can just ride, lock up it next to the trash can because there's usually not a bike lane or a bike rack, and unless I'm going to Costco where I need a truck. The baggie on the back of the bike.
You need to get in better shape, and you can take a trailer on your bike.
Thank you. But I do know that there are people that ride, and all you had to do is look back to when the gas prices went through the roof. The bicycle shops just went crazy with the bikes they were selling so people could ride to work. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And our last speaker is Richard Onsgaard.
Correct. Good evening. Richard Onsgaard, 2538 Covent Garden Court, Thousand Oaks, just off of Kensington, Arbolis. And I agree with the proposal that came up. I have a little bit different insight on it. I would disagree with the gentleman that just spoke. I would rather have the buffer between the cars and myself, and I won't ride in the gutter. It's 3 feet wide. I don't need to ride in the gutter. That's 18 inches. So from that standpoint, I can tell you that I've been a fireman, retired fireman. I've been to multiple accidents on that corner of Kensington and Arbolis, usually because everybody's trying to space those cars and take a jab at it and get across and make that left turn, or coming from the other direction, make the left turn coming up Kensington. It doesn't work. Multiple accidents. I've heard them. I go down. We do that because we hear it, and I'm a fireman, so that's what I did. So I do agree with the proposal that's coming up. However, you're still going to have a problem, and that's that cross traffic. And unless you have a signal put in there, you're going to have more incidents like this. I see the officers all the time. They come up with the center divider to slow the traffic down. But it's kind of a blind spot. I don't know if you've ever turned left off of Kensington onto Arbolas, but it's kind of a curve, so you don't see the cars coming quite that quickly. So if you're not quick on the gas, and everybody takes their kids to school, that's a shortcut coming up Kensington to Park Oaks to drop their kids off. So every day they come back down that after they get their kids, and that left turn is very dangerous for them. So I think the problem really isn't going to be the street markings. I think 3 lanes is great. I think your problem that you're going to have in the future is if you don't get a traffic light on there, you're going to have more accidents, you're going to have more deaths. So that's my input that I wanted to leave with you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Thanks.
So at this time, we have completed all of the public comments regarding to this item, and the staff, you can now respond.
Okay, yeah, so we've taken some notes, and it appears most of the comments, they're either related to Hillcrest Drive or Avenida de los Arboles. We'll just start with Hillcrest Drive. There was a comment indicating or thought that the number of travel lanes would be reduced. We currently have 4 lanes, and let me just flip to a photograph that we are proposing to keep all 4 travel lanes. It's the photograph that's on the right side of this slide is what we're looking to put in. It's going to mimic exactly what's currently in place to the east of Canale School Road, so we're going to mimic the same configuration and put it in between Herbs Road to Canale School Road. So the only thing that we're going to have to lose is the on-street parking in order to squeeze in that 2-way left turn lane. So we're looking to gain improved ingress-egress at the side streets, driveways. However, there is going to be a cost to that, and that is the loss of parking where it's currently allowed. Yeah, I think that was the main comment on Hillcrest Drive, but now let's jump to Arboles. Just jump to leave this slide up. One thing I would like to comment on, that as a result of the Sapway Park that's coming in across the street on the south side of Arboles, there is a signal that is going in. I believe they're going to start work on it in a couple weeks, and it should be in within 4 to 6 months, and that's going to improve ingress-egress at Kensington. Currently, I know that there's a person that spoke that there's a issue with gaps, especially during the peak hours. With that signal there, that's going to relieve a lot of the issues when drivers are trying to ingress and egress from Kensington. So that's going to solve a lot of issues. It's not going to slow traffic down because the way it'll be programmed, it will rest in green on Arboles. We don't want it changing quickly and all the time to serve Kensington. We're going to synchronize the lights from Westlake all the way to the freeway so that we try to catch a band of green as you start from Westlake, move your way towards the 23 freeway, and the same going in the opposite direction. So we're going to synchronize those lights once that signal goes in. There was a comment made as to why we would consider going from 3 to 2. One of the reasons is that we looked at the traffic volume. When we saw that the volume of that road is only 18,000 vehicles per day, which is 9,000 in each direction, to comfortably serve that road, the volume level of 31,000 is what we would need to hit and still have very good service levels. We're only a little bit more than halfway close to getting to 31,000. We know that 18,000 with 2 lanes is going to be comfortable. the way that the traffic works there is that you have 2 lanes coming from Herbs, which will continue all the way to Westlake Boulevard. And then if you're starting from Westlake Boulevard, the heavy volume is from northbound Westlake onto the left turn into Arbalest, and that's also 2 lanes. So you have 2 lanes entering either side of that segment of road. So that's some of the thought process that we looked at. Comment was made, can we change the speed limit of Arbalest from 45 miles an hour? That's something that we can't change at this moment. We set the speed limit based on what we call the 85th percentile speed. It's a state law. And one thing is, if we were to change the striping to either a 3-to-2 or this compromise design, what we would do is measure the speeds again, probably 4 to 6 months after implementation, see if it caused a reduction in speed, and if we can justify a lower speed limit, we would ask council to lower the speed limit. Comment was made that a 3-to-2 design is more dangerous for emergency vehicles. We check with our emergency services, police and fire. They felt that a 3-to-2 lane reduction would not cause any issues. Actually, would give drivers a place to pull over. On the side, the emergency vehicles can pass in the existing travel lanes, and when the cars drive over into the crossed out area, they would also not impede the bike lane and cause a disruption to any cyclists that would be on the road. Lastly, on the compromise design, one thing we can implement is a slightly wider bike lane. I think right now it may be 5 feet, which is the minimum width. We can probably give the cyclists an extra foot, or maybe even 2. We would look into that and still maintain that buffer zone between the travel lane, the third travel lane, and the bike lane. I think that should cover the comments.
Any further questions for the staff? Commissioner Reeder?
Mr. Mashigo, thanks for explaining that. My only concern is our first speaker tonight. Her name is Renee, that had the RV, and she described the necessity to back out onto Hillcrest. I don't see that as being a viable thing that she would have to do.
I'll take this one. So, currently that's the way she gets in and out. She would pull in and out of her driveway. We've actually took the liberty of doing an aerial photo and looked at her driveway. She actually has two access points to her driveway. Now, they may not be connected, but she has over 4,000 square foot of driveway area. So we feel that she may need to back into her driveway. It may need to require some parking cars in a different place when we want to turn the RV around, or definitely doing things maybe a little different than she has in the past. And we do recognize that this is an inconvenience. But again, everything we do is a little bit of a trade-off. If you add a center turn lane, you have to eliminate the parking. Yeah, something has to give in these situations, and as we know, some people are always negatively impacted when we make changes like this.
Thank you. That's good to know that she does have options. As she described it, she was backed into a corner, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
My question is from reading 46 letters last night. So if I'm quiet, it's because my head's spinning. But I do really appreciate everybody's feedback's always, valuable. We weigh it all, believe it or not, one way or another, and try to come up with the safest approach. One of the things that came out that wasn't addressed here whatsoever, but that I would at least ask you to look at, was the westbound traffic on Arbalest and the stacking that occurs with the right-hand turning onto Herbs. And I know that is a problem, especially in evening rush hour coming home. And I'm wondering if you could analyze to see if that intersection's lights, because there's two protected left-hand turn lane lights, that if you change the pattern, you could put a protected right arrow in there and would allow more people to turn right. So what would happen is, conceivably, and I'm not telling you what to do, but just analyze it, as the westbound two left lanes are making a left, there would be a protected right so that they could turn the same. There wouldn't be an opposing left-hand turn in the opposite direction. See if that could possibly affect the stacking, or to at least do the analysis to see if that is as big a problem as this person seemed to think. Because I have witnessed it myself, and I think it is a daily occurrence, and I think we could make improvements.
Any other questions?
Okay, I just want to comment
okay.
on that. Yeah,
great.
That's something we can definitely look at. And what Commissioner Gregory described is what we call a right turn overlap phase, so that when a left turning movement occurs, the non-opposing right turn is able to go at the same time. So we would definitely look into that, see how we would have to reconfigure lanes there in some manner. Also, take a look at the turning movements and maybe do a new count at the location. Make sure that if we do it, it's not going to adversely impact the through lanes, because whenever you make a change to do one thing, there's a chance that it could adversely impact something else. So we want to make sure it's going to work.
Thank you. I just thought it was worth bringing to your attention.
Okay, so that's it. We'll close it out with just for the record stating that we have received 0 written statement cards in agreement with the engineer's recommendation and 0 against the engineer's recommendation tonight. So those statement cards would be separate from the emails that we've received and read.
Excuse me.
With this,
Chair, we have received 5 written statement cards
okay.
in opposition of the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Do we, just for clarification, do we get that count up here? Okay. Thanks. So regarding this motion, I would like to get staff's recommendation about moving forward, since there's only 2 of the projects that have received any sort of pushback. Do we package those separately or make this one motion? Yes, Commissioner Lemo.
I would just suggest that what we've done in the past to help staff get an idea of motion is that we go through commission discussion first and see where, not necessarily where our vote is, but where our head is, and in whether or not there should be a change if their motion stands as what the recommendation is, or how to adjust it. I just suggest that might not be
that sounds great.
A bad way tonight.
Okay. I can definitely take the lead there. So it sounds to me that all of the projects in scope here are really great, because our city is resurfacing 50 miles of streets. And I know that our taxpayers are super happy to see $14 million of improvements. But I do have concerns regarding Los Arboles and also potentially Hillcrest. Those would be the 2 projects that I would need to discuss further with the commission before making a vote either way. Commissioner Lemo?
I do have some comments. Some are general and some are very specific. First of all, whatever governmental body you're dealing with, it's virtually an impossibility to be all things or create all things for all people. And that's not going to happen here, and it's not going to happen at council. And as we're finding out, it doesn't happen anywhere if you're a member of the state of California or New York especially. So even with a great tax plan, there's a domino effect that always takes place with everything. And the same thing happens, I think, to a greater degree when you're dealing with traffic. Unlike city council, where I think they have a right, because they were elected, to pay close attention to public opinion all by itself, what we listen to on public opinion has to go and be judged by safety and the traffic laws in the state of California. Perfect example for those of you who don't attend these meetings regularly because you have a life. You cannot use you cannot use stop signs to control speed. Yet virtually every one of us want to. Well, when you do that, you lose the right to have been protected under the state of California liability situation. So I think it's important to keep in mind that what we are going to do is make a recommendation to council. It's very important that we've had your input, but not from counting the numbers in favor versus the numbers against. The input is how we can create perhaps different ideas or different views to look at with staff. And that's really important, as being the person who has served second longest on the Traffic Commission. People come and they really, unfairly, they don't know what the control points are. I do want to bring up the fact that, as someone who works with this almost every day, there is no place in the state of California where bikes are considered recreational only. That's long gone. Probably stopped about 30 years ago. So much so that many people in the building trades, have to spend money providing free bicycles for people to shop with, free areas for them to be, out of hot weather and so on. The other thing I'd like to ask people to do, and I've been asking this at every meeting for about the last 2 years that I attend as a person in the audience, is to help us eliminate the boogeyman. Boogeyman, when we were growing up, was something they would always be afraid of. The dark, something under your bed. The big boogeyman here is that we're going to be like the San Fernando Valley. It is a physical impossibility. Let me explain. There are 1.7 million people in the San Fernando Valley. While I wish everybody in this room good health and long life, it is a physical impossibility to live long enough to have that many people live one on top of one another in Thousand Oaks. In fact, right now our population is 132,000. If you looked at those meetings where they show you, what our measuree allowances are and all, if every resident had no bachelors, no single kids, just married couples and children, we would still never go over 145,700 people. So I would like you all to keep the same open mind we do, that all this monkey business about the San Fernando Valley cannot exist. And one of the other reasons that I like to bring that up is because I wouldn't ride a bicycle in the San Fernando Valley under any circumstances. I think with my car, I take my life in my hands every time I go down Ventura Boulevard. And I would certainly never be a pedestrian there. So I would like you to sort of understand the realism versus the emotion. Someone had said earlier they thought we were a solution to a problem. Well, the facts don't speak to that. The fact of the matter is there have been accidents there. They have been graphed out. And I think that not only realizing what's taken place there in the past, but anticipating the future and people's travel patterns. Because we have to realize that whether we like it or not, while the population doesn't change in Thousand Oaks, my wife and I didn't change any of the population when we came here except for one thing. 3 kids got driver's license. Population of the city never changed, but 3 more cars got on the road. That has nothing to do with the San Fernando Valley. It has to do with us. Good news was I had 3 sons, so I didn't really pay for 3 weddings, but I still had to deal with what a kid does in a car. So I think that's important. Someone had said they were at a light for 15 minutes, and this is something that's really touched a nerve with me, and I'll tell you why. Every time we have a traffic commission meeting, my best friend calls and tells me he's sitting too long at the lights. So before the next meeting, I go to the lights he's sitting too long at, and I time him. I haven't found a light in the city of Thousand Oaks that goes through 2 cycles that takes more than 5 minutes anywhere. I put 31,000 miles a year on my car. So safety should be the number one thing. Someone had also suggested we need more radar. Well, I haven't found a street yet that doesn't. But unless we become a police state, if you look at the statistics about radar, when folks see the cops and the radar is there, they do a better job. Unless we're going to keep police on the street 24/7, it's going to cost a lot more than the road diet that's being proposed, which has a 100% success ratio. When you look at the cities that have used road diets, we've got a couple in our city right now. It has a better record than the fact that we cannot keep the police there 24/7. On-street parking. I think that we all need to remember that on-street parking is a luxury. I have lived in many places, whether it be apartments or homes, where you got to have parking in your drive. There are many places in Thousand Oaks where you can't put many cars on the street. If your neighbor has a guest and they park on the street, you have no parking on the street in front of your home in some of the planned urban developments that we have. I think that safety is a good and fair trade-off to lose some parking. I would not want to lose any parking at all if, in fact, people didn't have driveways and couldn't accommodate some guests in their own driveways. I don't think anybody should live that way. But I don't think that we compromise everyone's safety when we've come up with a solution that my thing would be, I would want, as few dominoes to fall as possible. There's always going to be a domino effect. And so for those reasons, I like both the staff's original recommendation and the compromise, and that's where my head is at.
Commissioner Reeder?
Mr. Lammel's final statement, I agree with.
Commissioner Gregory?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that also. Thank you.
Okay, coming full circle, after considering things further, and thank you, Commissioner Lameau, for your insight, I am on the same page with my fellow commissioners, and aside from the compromise being included in our discussion, I am also supportive of staff recommendations on all the projects.
So just to be clear, I think the commission is saying they like the striping on all of the streets, with the exception of Arbalest, which you prefer or like the feedback that we received where we do the compromise, the reduced lane widths, but keep 3 lanes in each direction.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So do we need further discussion, or is there a motion?
I would like to make the motion that we accept staff's recommendation with the compromise to be recommended to City Council, whatever schedule you're at, and of course we accept the rest of the striping plan.
Ms. Zambrano, please call the vote.
Commissioner Gregory? Yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemo?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeder?
Yes.
And Chair Simpson?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 4-0.
The Traffic Commission makes recommendations to the City Council, and interested parties may attend the City Council meeting and speak either for or against the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. Any person wishing to appeal a decision for the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission shall file a written appeal and pay an appeal fee with the City Clerk's office within 14 calendar days of this decision. The matter will be referred to the City Council at the earliest reasonable and available date. The appeal fee will be refunded only if the City Council overturns the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission's decision. An appeal form is available from the recording secretary. So now we will move on to the engineer's reports continued and the BAT meeting minutes. So we have no speaker cards on this subject.
Okay, this is item 8B. Basically, this is our monthly minutes that occurred there was a BAT meeting on October 18th where we discussed the proposals to restripe the streets, and the bicycle advisory team heard what the proposals were, and as I mentioned during the presentation, they supported the proposals.
Thank you. Are there any statement cards?
There are no statement cards received for that item.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to the status report of the prior Traffic Commission recommendations.
Okay, just real briefly, there's 2 items that we noted so the commissioners can keep up to date as far as what's going on with some of the things that you've heard in the past. At Arbalest at Big Sky, the median road work has actually moved along quite a bit. There's guide rail in place. They've put in some of the new median that's in place. The road had to be closed, I believe, during the day due to the construction work, but it's been reopened at night. So if you are in the area and curious to see what it looks like, you may want to take a look. I believe the construction or the project should be completed by December or middle of December. And the second item is that the last time we met, there was a proposal for adding edgeline striping on Lakeview Canyon Road. We're going to try to get that done. By the end of the year, we received some bids for the project. We're, I believe, putting in thermoplastic, which is a longer process than putting in paint. So just want to let you know that that's hopefully finished by the end of the year.
Great, thank you. And now moving down to item number 10, Commission Referrals from September.
Okay, and then, yes, item number 10, just a brief write-up on concern voiced regarding the intersection of Jans and Moore Park. I'm not going to get into great detail on it, but we did check the operation. We did find that it is operating correctly. What we have there is for the concern regarding, I believe, a southbound left turn movement. And what we have there is a what we call a lead lag left turn operation. It's not, I guess most intersections where there's a protected left turn, we have a lead where both the left turns occur simultaneously. This one's set up differently where the left turns don't occur simultaneously, and maybe some people may not be familiar with the operation. I believe the concern was that there are people running the red light, and that might be more of an enforcement matter. So we'll work with the police department to see if we can get that corrected.
And now moving on to item 11, work program and commission schedule.
The future work items for the Traffic Commission, they're listed in the packet there. So if you're curious to see what's in the pipeline, we have it all listed. No pressing issues at this time in terms of things that need to be reviewed for either commission or city council.
Thank you. Any questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up now to item number 12, Traffic Commission comments and discussion. And I that I missed this question that I had in my notes from the BAT meeting, and that's regarding e-cycling. And I read in the minutes here from the meeting that Los Angeles District of State Parks has issued a ban on electric bikes or e-bikes. Our families really enjoyed e-biking around the community. It's been a lot of fun, and I wondered what is our CRPD and COSCA policy for e-bikes and open spaces in our local trails. Okay.
We'll check with our bicycle coordinator, Kathy Lowry, and we'll get that information to you at the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Commissioner?
Yeah, I just wanted to take this time to thank Commissioner Reeder for his taking the reins over this last year and all the contributions he's made. which have been adopted and have made this city a better place. So I just want to thank you for your conscientiousness and diligence, and keep it up. Thank you.
I think it's just crazy how fast the year has gone, actually. It just seems like yesterday that it was your first meeting. So thank you very much for your service and your dedication. And if there's nothing left to discuss, then yes? Commissioner Reeder.
Yes, Chair, are we going to have a December meeting?
Oh,
that's on.
That's a great question. So how did I miss that?
12.
Item 12. Okay, so it isn't in my notes, but I'm going to wing it. Okay, is there a motion regarding our December meeting, or is there staff information that we would need to consider prior to making that decision?
Yeah, as Jim indicated on our work plan, there's nothing critical coming up, so canceling that December meeting would be fine with the staff. So at your wish.
Okay. Would anyone like to put a motion there? Commissioner Lamo?
I would like to make a motion that we do not have our meeting in the month of December, return back in January at our regular Wednesday time.
All right. We'll take a hand vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that motion carries 4-0.
All right, thank you. And if there's no more comments or discussion, this is going to be the first time that I will officially adjourn the meeting. This meeting is adjourned.